Hey everyone, this is WobblyWallaby. Today I'll be discussing my Ronin build that I use for all my PvE instances. I like broken and unfair classes, so Ronin is the perfect example of that. I'll show you my complete build and things I swap in as well. I had released a video on Ronin 3 months ago and I've made some improvements since then. That includes updated gear, advanced runes, arcane runes, shadow equipment, and skill allocation. This guide will also include free-to-play alternatives in case you want to know those as well. This class is busted because Slashlight melts bosses with high damage modifiers and it scales with magic attack, magic defense, and vit, so as your deposit and multi-classes grow, you can take advantage of it. Ronin is one of the best DPS classes for White Star Airship 2, which is one of the hardest instances these days. If you want to know all the details, stay tuned. For Ronin, the number one most broken thing about this class is the Ymir switch. You basically have an M.Def build where you maximize your M.Def, and then you're able to switch to the normal build. Sync Scrim does persist between this, so that's what this trick really is doing, and this works in instances. So for example, with my M.Def build, I have 10,559 M.Def. If I cast Prepare for Elite, then my magic attack is 62,478. Then with my Ymirs, I switch back to my PvE build, and then my magic attack is at 69,000, which is really high. For my PvE build, if I just cast Prepare for Elite here, my magic attack is at 42,000, so the difference is quite huge. So for anyone watching this who doesn't already use M.Def Switch, you should definitely consider this. Are you playing AFK games and want to run your game 24/7 without affecting your phone or computer's performance? Try UgPhone, a 24/7 cloud emulator with ultra low latency. Here I'm playing Genshin Impact without needing to install more than 17 GB on my phone. Then I click on my device's menu to bring up a variety of options and switch to my other device. Here's my Ragnarok mobile device, where I park my character in Void and other MVP spawning places and idle here all day. There are multiple servers in Asia and one for America. There are many plans available, so check them out. If you do sign up, then use the invitation code Wobbly to immediately get a bonus of 488 diamonds. Here I use the code, then I can use diamonds to try it out for 4 hours for free. Diamonds can also be used to get discounts on paid plans like $1 off the 7-day plan. I'll put a link in the description. Thanks to UgPhone for sponsoring this video. First, here's my gear. I'll also include gear that I'm working towards as well. For offhand, I use the Dragonbone Shield with 18% physical damage increase random attribute. For enchants, aim for the armor breaking for the penetration percentage. For card, I use Ancient Artifact User card. The semi-free-to-play alternative would be the Anubis Star card and the Alice Star card. Next for armor, I use the Curse armor for the Ignore defense and the attack percentage. For random attribute, I have 20% damage to large monsters. For people that have Morale enchants, Soul Cage is a popular option, but right now I need the 16% Ignore defense, so I can't give that up just yet. For ideal enchant, Morale 4 is ideal. For card, I use the Poitata Star card for damage to non-demi-human monsters. The Fire Elf card and Heart card are great free-to-play alternatives. Also, when dealing with Lolly Rui in Oracle Dungeon, I need 100% stun resist, so I will use the Title Armor. If you lack stun resist, you can get some from the enchants, and here I have 17.9% stun resist from enchants. I also use the Grandma Wolf card for more normal status resist. I have both these armors on my item bar list so I can swap between them as needed. Next for garment, I use Leader's Pauldron with the 12% skill damage random attribute. For enchant, physical damage increase is the best. For card, I use the Golden Flame King card for damaged MVPs. A semi-free-to-play alternative is the Vagabond Star card or the Mayfair Lens card for MVP damage. Ideally, I'm aiming for the Zanabia card. Next for footgear, I use Fair Judgment for the attack and magic attack percentage. The damage and magic attack damage is the ideal random attribute. The ideal enchant here is physical damage increase. For card, I use the Flute Player Star card for more movement speed. Next for accessories, I use 2 Heart of Molten Fire accessories for the fire attack. The ideal random attribute is the fire attack plus 12%, and the ideal enchant is to have the physical damage increase and the sharp blade enchant. this combo is possible to get together. I use the Scarecrow card for dealing with undead bosses like the PSR Dragon and the Legend Museum Dragon. For targets that aren't undead, I'd use the Moonlight Tendrillion Star card, and for Dark Converting and White Star Airship, I'd use the Santa Pouring card. Luckily, these cards are all free to play friendly. It really depends on how many Ymir slots you have in order to have these. I don't have many Ymir slots, so I just have the Scarecrow card. I use this same setup for both my accessories. Next for weapon, Black Flame Sword is the best weapon. Ideally you have the enchants for morale, but these enchants were a bit too good so I couldn't re-roll them. Next for cards, I use the Drake Star card and the Menorah Star card. For free to play, use the 2 Menorah Star cards. Next, luckily for these gadgets on the right side, all of these are available in the Time Wish machine now, so you can purchase these whenever you need to. Many of these are great for other classes, so they're fairly safe investments. First for head, I use the Homestead of Snowy Owl. This is the deal with the Legend Museum Dragon and the PSR Dragon. If I had more Ymir slots, I'd have one for the Holy Knight Blessings for bosses that aren't weak to fire. If I had an extra slot, then I'd have one for White Star Airship, and when pure Dark Converting, I would use Duchess of Bat since Holy deals more damage. I have also seen people use the God of Love's name if your party inflicts a lot of party debuff statuses on the White Star Airship. Next for card, I use the Machine Dragon Wing card for the MVP damage. A free-to-play alternative is the Andre Star card or the Norman card. Next for face, I use Winter Crown for the skill damage. Without this, I'm not close to the 50% skill damage. I also need the Morale Enchant. The +6 Cube Blower is a popular one for most people to use, but I don't have the Morale Enchant on this one, so this performs worse for me. For face, the ideal enchant is Morale. Next for mouth, use the +6 Ocean's Attachment. Attack or Vit are good enchants. Next for back, I wasn't lucky enough to get Chicken Axe on this account yet, so I'll continue rolling for this. For now, I use the +6 Goodwill Gift Box. In my weekly party with my other accounts, I have other accounts that actually have the Chicken Axe, so they are inflicting this status right now on the targets. For enchants, the ideal one is to have Morale enchants. Next for tail, It's Too Late is the best. Ideally you have the physical damage increase or Sharp Blade. Next for Shadow Equipment, I use the Rosa Chain since I desperately need the Ignore defense. Once the 50% Shadow Equipment progress is allowed, that will further increase my Ignore defense, and maybe I can drop some of the other stuff I have. Next for armor, I use Chosen's Armor primarily because it has the 2-set bonus with Ring of Loyalty for the 5% extra magic attack and attack. Next for garment, I use White Duke's Manteau, which is great for skill damage and Ignore defense. Next for footgear, I use St. Mary's Cloth Shoes, which is great for more attack and magic attack. Next for my first accessory, I use the Flame Feather for the fire damage, and that has a great set bonus with Black Flame Sword for 5% magic attack and attack. Even at Refine 0, it is quite strong. I will work on refining this more later. For my second accessory, I use Ring of Loyalty to combo with Chosen's Armor. Next for Oracle Mirror, I use the build for the MVP damage. I also use Deathcat Armor for the stun resist to deal with Oliruri. Next for Relic, I use the Lord of Vane for the penetration percentage and elemental counter coefficient. A free-to-play alternative is Wei's Sai. Next for my M.Def gear, for all the enchants, try to get the M.Def ones. Also for random attributes, try to get the maximum M.Def. For ancient equipment, often the gear doesn't matter, it is the M.Def random attributes being maxed which is important. The gear also giving some M.Def as a property also helps a lot too. For offhand, I use the All Souls Return for the M.Def random attribute. For card, I use the Tomb Zombie card for the M.Def percentage. Next for armor, I use the Other Shore Patrol for the 15% M.Def and the M.Def random attribute. For card, I use the Rock Spear Turtle card for the M.Def percentage. Next for garment, I use Imperial's Knight's Cape for the M.Def random attribute. Next for footgear, I use Golbean's Griefs for the M.Def and M.Def percentage per refine level. For card, I use the Fawn card. Next for my first accessory, I use the Void Crystal for the M.Def random attribute. I use the Quiv card for the M.Def percentage. For my second accessory, I use the Diamond Earring for the M.Def random attribute. I use the Quiv card for the M.Def percentage. Next for weapon, I use the Black Flame Sword. You can use any sword you want, I just happen to use the one that I refine. I use 2 Sting Star cards for the M.Def percentage. Next for headwear, I'm using the Gloomy Witch headwear for the M.Def percentage. I use the Gibbet card for the M.Def. Next for face, I use the Nightmare Ghost face for the M.Def. Next for mouth, I use the Night Before Assessment for the M.Def. Next for back, I use Fantasy Pouring Ferris Wheel for the M.Def. Next for tail, I use the M.Def Fairy for the M.Def. Next for Orkomer, the only change is to use Cardo for the M.Def percentage. Next for my advanced ruins, I'd rerolled a bunch of ruins and also swapped in Sword Practice Rune for Ignore Defense and Damage Increase. I took away the Sword Parry Rune since I rely on my Faith Pray from my Saint and Last Stand to keep me alive. Versus the Berserk Breath Rune, I'd rolled a lot to try to get a good first and second line. The second line for dealing extra damage to targets under burn status is extremely important for White Star Airship. This helps me carry White Star Airship a lot easier than before. And just a reminder, you can't burn bosses in some instances like Museum, Isles, or PSR. This is primarily for dealing with targets in White Star Airship. Next is the Etch Mark Rune. Ideally you have a high first line. Deep Cut stacks 5 times so it adds up a lot. Next for the Anger Reflex Rune, a high second line is good. I rarely use Warrior of Wildfire's Rage though, which is why this rune isn't super important to me. I find my survivability comes from Last Stand. Next is Death Cage Star Rune, a high second line is great so you can lifesteal more. Next is Darkness Awakening Star Rune. Try to get a high first line to maximize your Death Awakening state. Also, third line doesn't matter for Ronin since they don't use Frenzy. Next is the Sword Practice Rune. I like the extra Ignore Defense and damage provided. In general, the 3 runes you should heavily reroll for are the Berserk Breath Rune, Darkness Awakening Star Rune, and the Etched Mark Rune. Next are the Arcane Runes. I use the White Blade Rune, which is fantastic since it boosts your damage if the target doesn't have any other enemies within 5 meters of it. The damage increase of 15.5% is huge even at level 61. Next is the War Preparedness Rune, which converts attack to a self-shield for 2 seconds. This is excellent since Ronins deal a ton of damage, so you get quite a nice shield. Next is the Indestructible Rune. I don't invest in other arcane runes besides the 2 I mentioned, so this is sort of a filler. This just adds a bit of final damage reduction. Next are skills. I did make some changes from last time, in particular getting HP Light to max and taking away skill points from Sword Parry. Here are my flame skills. For Endure, make sure Unlimited Endure is checked off to avoid flinching. Next, here are my Warrior of Wildfire skills. Status vulnerability is what makes this class amazingly strong in White Star Airship as you burn targets, including bosses. HP Light is important as well, so I maxed it out this time. HP Light contributes to 20% of the damage of Slash Light, and in addition for Slash Light, Vit is important since it adds to the damage, so that is why we max Vit in attributes. Sink or Swim is the real MVP skill. You can boost your attack like crazy with this, especially with the M.Def switch with Ymirs. Next for Inferno Armor, max out everything. For my manual bar, I have Magnum Break, Prepare for Elite, Last Stand, Inferno Armor, HP Light so I can see the cooldown, and Call Spirit. For my second manual bar, I have Magnum Break, Prepare for Elite, Last Stand, Taunt, Super Spring Flashing Slash, and Warrior of Wildfire's Rage. My Prepare for Elite has Endure, Call Spirit, HP Light, Overthrust, Sword Parry, and Sink or Swim. For auto attack, I just have Slash Light. Next for attributes, I max Vit first, then enough Dex for 500 hit with the Dex B-Meal. You do need 500 hit for the Legend Isles, Museum, and PSR, otherwise you'll be missing a ton. Then max Int and remaining into Strength. Next for stats, with M.Def switching I have the following. Ideally for Legend, Museums, and Isles you need 50% skill damage, 70% penetration, and 200% ignore defense. these are the stats you should be aiming for. I have 36,000 attack, 69,000 magic attack, 500 hit, 69% penetration, 49.5% skill damage increase, 237.2% damage, 101.6% physical damage increase, 198.6% ignore defense. I also have 134% fire damage. Also, if I swap in my title armor, I show I have 102.8% stun resist for dealing with WobblyWallaby. Next, to get these stats, here are my adventure handbook. I have 3,351 attack, 2,734 magic attack, 130% magic and attack deposits, which scales very well with Ronin, and 28% magic defense. Next, for foods, I use Strength B, Vit B, Int B, Dex B to get the 500 hit, and 6 stacks of Frontier Royal Salad for the anti-death and cast delay. I use Fire Mastery Alloy for longer battles and Fire Controlling Alloy for tough battles. For long battles, Slow Attack Alloy is great for the 100 attack, and Rapid Attack Alloy for tough battles. Next, for my gameplay tips, here's what I recommend. Before every battle, I do my M.Def switch with Ymir, then cast Purple Elite. Then switch back to my PvE build. Do not cast Sink or Swim again or you'll lose your M.Def Gear Sink or Swim. Then I cast Inferno Armor, then Magnum Break, and begin auto-attacking. If you feel like you're about to die, then you can use Last Stand, but remember you do lose your HP Light status, so only use this as a last resort. I usually just use potions to heal myself up. I do keep the HP Light in my bar so I can see when Sink or Swim needs to be recasted, since both last for 30 seconds. Also, you should only Ymir switch when the buff is about to run out. Ronin's AoE skill isn't as good as Rascasy, so try to group up monsters together. You can use Taunt to bring monsters together, or Thor's Lightning Cling to suck people into one area. This is especially good in PSR when the mini dragons are up, since hitting both at the same time is more ideal. If you're really struggling with White Star Airship, you should definitely have a ninja to help you out. Their debuffs are able to help you considerably. Well, that's all the tips I have for this class, and this is my build. I hope you'll be able to enjoy Ronin as much as I do in PvE instances. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Here's a video that I would recommend. And if you want more Ronin guides, check out this playlist over here.